Hey everybody, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to go over URL parameters. It's one of the main ways that one of the couple ways that we have to send information via URLs when we're making requests to a server. So now that we're building the server, we're going to learn how to receive it and how we use it. All right, so our URL parameter, the word parameter is the same word parameter we use with functions. It is simply a placeholder. It's a placeholder for data that the front end can send to the back end. So quickly remind ourselves the parts of the URL. We've got the base URL, which is like Amazon.com. We got the endpoint, which says from this domain, what would we like? Maybe images, and that would request images. Well, parameter is if we were to say, show me all the images. So you click the screen, and there's that gallery of products that show up right away. Well, when you click on one, they need to do a request to go and get more information about that one thing. And they will typically send the information or the ID of the one thing requested as a parameter to an endpoint. So they would send the request, /images / some ID number. And this would be the ID for the image you clicked on in that gallery. We will also talk about query in the next lesson, so we'll leave that for now. But let's look at parameters and how we actually use them in our routes. All right, so we'll start with the movie router, and I'm still using the same code from previous examples. We've got our same server here and all the routes linked. And the route we're going to build is the get one. So for now, I'm going to comment out this other syntax so we can work with just a base route to learn this new one. All right, so we have get all and post one. Get all movies, add a new movie. Well, let's make a get one route. All right, so this route will start the same. We'll say movie router.get, but here we need to craft an endpoint that expects a parameter. So it needs to be / really anything. Anything they send after / needs to be able to be received here. The way that we do that, setting up the route endpoint, is we use the symbol colon and then give it a parameter name. So I'm going to say movie ID. All right, and we'll finish off the route. Okay, so because the colon is there, I know it still just looks like a string, but the colon does hold special value in a URL. Let's console.log rec again and test this movie router route out. So let's go to Postman. I'm going to do a get request to / movies / here is my parameter. And we're going to look for this in the console log. So I'll hit send, and we'll come down here. All right, we see the route, and the body came along from the last time. We don't need that this time, though. But if we scroll up, eventually, here we are, we'll see params and query. And notice params is an object that has a movie ID equal to here's my parameter. So because I set this at an endpoint, that use the colon to denote it's a parameter, movie ID is now the name of the variable of the ID I sent. And I can see that by saying rec.params.movieID. So let's run that one more time and see the movie ID in the console. So get, I'll come back, and there we go. Here's my parameter. Now, this is just the name of whatever I call the parameter. Again, just like a function. So if I just said ID here, then rec.params.id would receive the data and work the same way. All right, so now that we have the ID, a get one request needs to filter through the collection of movies in the database and return the one whose ID matches the one we're requesting. So let's work that out. First, we need to get the ID of who's asking. And let's store that in a variable. So we'll say const movie ID equals rec.params.movieID. All right, so if you think to yourself, what is a higher order array method we could use to loop through this array or iterate through this array and return the object whose ID matches the one sent through here? Well, a good choice in this case, because what we want is an object, is something like the .find method. So we'll say const found movie equals movies.find. And for each movie, we only want it to return the current movie if it's underscore ID is equal to the one that was sent through the parameters. So triple equals to movie ID. Now that, provided the ID exists in the database, we'll get it stored in a variable, and we can res.send the found movie. All right, so let's give this a shot. Over in Postman, we'll do a get request to movies. And the reason why I'm needing to do this, if you recall, a new ID gets created every time the server restarts. So I'm always going to do a get request so I can get a brand new ID that was just generated. So let's grab the one here for Die Hard. And now I'm going to extend the endpoint and say it's /movies/ this ID and see what we get. All right, notice not an array this time, we got a single object. So that worked. It received the ID we requested, we stored it in a variable. Again, this step isn't necessary, but can be easier to read. Then we said filter through our database and find the movie whose ID matches the one we sent through this parameter, and then we just send it back. All right, so now that that is working for movies, let's go do it one more time just for practice on the TV shows. So here we'll write our get one. We'll say TV show router.get to / TV show ID. We'll store that in a variable. So TV show ID is from the rec.params.TV show ID as we named it here. Next, we'll do our find on the TV shows. And then we'll send the response. All right, let's give that a shot, make sure it works, and we should be good. So we'll come in here, we'll do a get request to / TV shows. So we get a brand new ID. All right, we'll grab the one here for Rick and Morty. We'll extend the endpoint with that ID and do a get. And it works. Great, so I know this may take a little practice. Definitely give yourself some practice, sending, just think of it purely as you're sending an argument into a function. This is where you set up the parameter for the function. This is where you send the argument. You send the argument with the request. All right, once you're feeling good with this and you have this working in your own examples, let's move on.